Here with another industrial action, we are ready.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is any moment now expected to flag off caravans taking new curriculum books to schools across the country. The event that will take place in Karen here in Nairobi brings together all publishers in Kenya and education stakeholders. And our reporter Timothy Otieno is at Karen. He will be joining us in a moment to just give us an update on what really we should expect from Karen, as the president is expected to flag off the new curriculum books. Timothy, if you can get me very clearly, Timothy, just keep us up to speed with where we are now with that particular event.
When we used to have in place
well, Akisa, of course, the official unveiling and launching of the new textbooks by government is just minutes from being kicked off here at the Samesti institution in Karen. We've been able to see the Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, who's since arrived here with his Principal Secretary, Dr. Belio Kipsang. We've also been able to see the ICT Cabinet Secretary, Joe Musheru. And right now, the program is on hold as they await the head of state to come and officially kickstart that process. Now, what will happen today is the phase one of the launch of the textbooks. Now, phase one will be covering secondary schools and specifically textbooks touching on Form 1 students who are set to join that level of education beginning of next week, Tuesday. That is the 9th of January, when Form 1s are expected to go to their various schools in which they were called. So these particular textbooks are going to be received by those students for the very first time. But there will also be phase two that will touch on other levels of education, including even primary school. So there are specific books that have been tailored for those in Standard 7 and those in Standard 8. But that launch will come on later on in this month. The dates are yet to be announced. So today is actually the first step towards realizing of the change of the new curriculum. Just earlier on, 2 days ago, the Cabinet Secretary did say that the curriculum change was on course and that all had been put in place to ensure that the 2663 system of education continues. Now, publishers are interestingly represented in this particular forum today. We've been able to spot representatives from Moran Publishers, Longhorn, Oxford, as well as the Kenya Literature Bureau. Now, what we're getting, the information we're receiving at the moment is that there has been some sort of agreement. This, of course, is subject to confirmation by our team, but there has been a sort of agreement where publishers will be accommodated to the extent that each publisher will be allowed to publish a book for a specific language. For example, in high schools, each student is expected to receive 6 textbooks, one for math, one for English, one for Swahili, and each for the 3 sciences, which is biology, chemistry, and physics. So the information we're getting is that there has been some sort of agreement where one publisher, for instance, Longhorn, may be tasked to publish books touching on mathematics. Another publisher, for example, Oxford, may be able to publish books that touch on English. Moran publishers may be given physics and all that. So that is the nitty-gritty that we're yet to confirm, but we've been able to speak to one of the insiders who has been able to tell us that there has been that level of talks in that regard so that they can be able to accommodate all publishers and that their businesses may not be locked out in these radical changes that are going to be taking place within the education sector. So any minute from now, the program will be beginning, even as we wait for the head of state, Akisa.
Well, Timothy, there have been, since the announcement that the government will be supplying books in schools, of course, there have been dissenting voices that have really been against this move. But the Cabinet Secretary has constantly insisted that this is sealing that loophole for brokers in this particular sector. What really do we expect from the Cabinet Secretary in terms of some of the dissenting voices we've had over this particular issue? What are you hearing from where you sit?
Well, Akisa, one of the dissenting voices was coming from the Kenya National Union of Teachers Officials, as well as the KUPPET organization. Now, we've been just a few minutes ago, the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Mr. Wilson Sossion, has just been able to pass us by, and we were actually requesting for an interview, to which he responded that it was still too early to talk about it. But just based on the press conference that the union officials indeed had with the Cabinet Secretary just 2 days ago, ago at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, they seemingly spoke in one voice. They had been engaged in a nearly 3-hour meeting on that day, and they had discussed various issues, including teacher training materials for the teachers themselves, as well as the textbooks that are being launched today. And on that day, they appeared to be speaking in one voice, and just by the mere presence of the union officials at this particular launch that will be spearheaded by the head of state speaks volumes in regards to perhaps the thumbs up that has been issued by the teachers' unions in this particular exercise. Indeed, on Wednesday, they had said that their concerns had been addressed, and in that regard, this year would be phase 2 of the piloting phase of the new curriculum, and in which it would involve more teachers to be trained, production and release of more training manuals for teachers for pre-primary as well as grades 1, 2 and 3. So at the moment it seems like it's a green light, it's white smoke. It appears that most of the stakeholders, their issues that they had raised over the last couple of days have seemingly been listened to, they have been heard, and at the moment it's like they're all speaking in one voice at the moment, and just waiting for that particular launch to kick off, Akisa.
Our reporter Timothy Otieno there joining us live from Karen, where he's covering that presidential function. The president is expected to officially flag off the new curriculum books that are expected in various